Coming up on WUFT Midday, assessing the damage. Florida communities are facing the aftermath of Hurricane Milton. The long road to recovery ahead for many of them. Plus, sunshine and cooler temps for your forecast. The UF weather team is timing out the cold front and how long the dip in the air will stick around. And a stalemate in fight for the fair wages. What's next for Boeing and its workers after continuing to disagree on incentives for employees? WUFT Midday starts now.
You're watching WUFT Midday.
It has been 2 days since Hurricane Milton made landfall on Wednesday night. Communities across Florida are still picking up the pieces after the destructive storm. This is WUFT Midday. I'm Nicole Borman. Research and rescue teams are in an effort underway for Florida with help from the National Guard. 5,000 Florida National Guard members are in the area of Hurricane Milton's destruction, resurfacing for helping people, rescuing them, clearing roads, and distributing vital supplies to victims. With the help of the Guard's members from additional states, the joint resources are up to 22 helicopters, over 500 high water vehicles, and 13 boats. The cleanup and recovery efforts are continuing to move across Florida. NBC's Jay Gray is in Fort Myers with the latest on recovery.
Well, we want to give you an idea of what's going on the ground right now here in downtown Fort Myers. Two things you notice: cleanup crews out and getting rid of some of the debris here, the branches, the limbs, and other things that were blown around during this storm, other things that floated in with the surge, and that the lights are back on. They have power again in this downtown area. Unfortunately, more than 2.5 million across the state still without power. In some of those areas, it is going to be tough. It may take not days, but a week or more to restore some of the power in the hardest hit areas. There was standing water here yesterday. Storm surge from the river pushing several blocks into the downtown area and into some of the businesses. So they're working to clean all of that up. Some hope that they'll be open later in the day today into the evening. A lot of restaurants and bars down here. It's a Friday night, so they want to get open, give people a chance to come in and also get business going again, which is going to be very important as a part of this recovery. Let's talk overall about where this state is right now on recovery. And you've got a mess that really stretches from one side, from the west coast, where this storm came in as a Category 3, all the way across to the east, where it left as a 1. So a hurricane that ripped across the entire expanse of the state, if you will, and left miles and miles of debris, the power lines down, and just flooding in so many areas, not storm surge only, but also from rain. We saw 20 inches of rain or more in some areas as this storm moved through. So that's what people have to work through now. And you had 80,000 in shelters. You had thousands more that left the strike zone. They went to higher ground to avoid the water, went to stay with friends or families, or were in hotels. What officials are saying right now, if you live in one of the harder hit areas, maybe stay away another day or so. You don't want to be in harm's way. We've got to clean things up. We've got to get the power restored. It's going to be tough, though. A lot of people dealing with a lot here and have over the last 13 days with 2 major storms hitting, but over the last 7 years with 6 major storms striking the area. That's the very latest going on here right now. I'm Jay Gray, NBC News, Fort Myers.
Officials following Milton. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office has released aerial video showing the extent of the flooding that hit the area and how they're rescuing. In the video, you can see deputies using a number of boats to rescue residents trapped by floodwaters after the storm. County officials say first responders pulled over 500 residents and 100 pets to safety. 135 of those people were saved from an assisted living facility threatened by the flooding. You can see the video. People in Flagler County are navigating the flooding from Milton. Over 18 inches of rain was dumped on Florida along with heavy winds. You can also see the destructive flooding that Milton caused. These high waters caused damage to homes with mold and costly repairs that hurt the property value. While the value of the property can be lost, what people lose in their homes as they try to pick up the pieces can be just as devastating. Officials ask you to stay away from floodwaters for your safety. In Hillsborough County, 400,000 people are still without power where Milton made landfall in Siesta Key. However, in north central Florida, there are still a number of people without power. Over 20,000 are without power in Marion County, alongside 17,000 in Citrus County and 16,000 in Flagler County. These counties are working to restore power to its citizens. Seco Energy and Duke Energy are some of the providers working to help you get power back. While we were fortunate to not get hit here in Gainesville, Ocala was not as fortunate. Over 20,000 customers are still without power, and debris is still an issue after heavy winds on Wednesday. But Ocala officials are helping people to rebuild their town. As you can see in a post by the Ocala Police Department, they have deployed a hurricane response team of 15 officials to Palmetto. Ocala office are still working to clear debris on the roads and provide any help that they can. OPD asks you to report any trees and power lines down by calling the non-emergency line because the Citizens Information Line is closing at 3 p.m. today. Ocala business offices will be closed today but reopen on Monday. Residential and commercial sanitary routes will be picking up on Friday, and regular routes will resume on Monday. Any trash or yard debris can be stacked in a pile on your curb. SunTrans services are back to operation starting this Monday at 9 a.m. Overnight parking is still lifted until Sunday in downtown. Other offices in Marion County and across north central Florida are reopening today after the hurricane. All administrative offices and departments of the jail on-site visitation is open today, along with Marion County offices, including the Sheriff's Office, Tax Office, and Property Appraiser's Office. But the courthouse and shelters are closed today. In Flagler, the Operations Center and District 2 offices are open. Meanwhile, jail visitation are closed today. The Florida Health Department is sending buses to facilitate aid to cities affected by Hurricane Milton. After Hurricane Helene, Florida Health extended an extra week to their visit to help additional locations. This includes Dunalin, Ocklawaha, and Ocala. The mobile units serve as a recovery center for these injured during the storm. The main issue they've seen so far is individuals needing tetanus shots from rusted nails, but no wound is too small for them to treat.
We're looking at individuals, they may get cut during cleanup, during storm cleanup, when they're moving debris. We want to make sure those individuals have an area where they can come get their wounds cleaned, treated, and for their own safety and precautions.
Cold water, snacks, and shade is also provided for those exhausted from working under the Florida sun. It was a bit chilly this morning after Hurricane Milton blew through on Wednesday night. The UF weather team is tracking sunny skies today, but let's take a quick look over at our traffic cam. We're looking at our traffic camera on I-75 near Paynes Prairie. We're seeing light traffic now. However, traffic near Levy County on US 719 has been heavy southbound as evacuees are heading home. Meanwhile, the weather is mainly sunny. Here's William Maxham with more on what you can see this weekend.
Yeah, the sun is shining today and Hurricane Milton continues to move away. You can see the clouds from Milton right there in the tropical image there, but it is not going to pose a threat to U.S. landfall. It's continuing to move away, and it looks like we're going to see a kind of a break in tropical conditions for the next couple of days. Here's Milton's speed now. It still has 70-mile-an-hour winds, now a post-tropical cyclone, but it's going to continue to move out to sea and weaken. And elsewhere in the tropics, things are looking relatively quiet, but that damage from Milton still very extensive. Power failures pretty much all along I-4 and very extensive numbers here. And further northward, they're still dealing with power outages across the mountains of North Carolina and into South Carolina. But fortunately, we've got nothing brewing into the tropics except one little system here just coming off the coast of Africa, but expected not to pose a threat. Remember, tropical season continues all the way until the end of November. Here's where we stand so far. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4 major hurricanes so far this season, but it looks like, at least for the short term, through the next week, no storms are going to be threatening, but we'll, of course, be watching that. Again, tropical season is about a month longer. All right. 76 degrees currently. It feels like 79. Winds out of the east currently, but generally the wind's been out of the north and northeast through the past 24 hours, continue to flow in that cooler air. We'll see hardly a cloud in the sky today. Temperatures just at 70 degrees, Lake City, 75, Jacksonville, 77 in Ocala. We'll warm up a little bit further in the next few hours, maybe touching the low 80s, but it's going to feel very comfortable. Humidity has come down considerably in the wake of Milton, so enjoy that. Headed out this evening, temperatures without a lot of humidity. You're going to cool pretty quickly. We're into the low 60s into the late part of the evening, into the upper 50s late tonight. We're talking about jacket weather if you're headed out this evening, and fall weather continues through both days of the weekend. Great weather for some grilling. Temperatures going to be into the lower 80s both afternoons of the weekend, and we're going to stay really nice into next week. Looking ahead, though, we are going to see another dip in temperatures. Look up here. Cold front here going to stay away for a few days, but by Wednesday, we'll see a significant drop in temperatures. Looking at highs by Wednesday into the 70s. Morning lows could be touching the upper 40s Thursday morning.
Florida is rebuilding from Hurricane Milton's destruction while aid is starting to help, including the federal government. With only 3 weeks away from Election Day, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are back on the campaign trail. Each are telling voters why they are best to lead in crisis. NBC's Alice Barr is in Washington with more.
As the devastation left by Hurricane Milton sinks in.
It hurts because you work so hard to obtain what you have, and then for it to just be gone in minutes.
And emergency water rescues wind down.
It just started rising from ankle to knee to waist. I had 4 children there.
The long road to recovery is ramping up. Thousands of federal workers joining state and local officials.
Every available resource is being deployed as fast as possible to impacted communities, and we will not leave until the work is done.
The political fallout also growing as the nominees get back out on the campaign trail. Former President Trump in Michigan continuing to slam the Biden administration's response to the last wave of destruction from Hurricane Helene.
The federal government, on the other hand, has not done what you're supposed to be doing.
Vice President Harris pushing back.
I have spoken with state, local officials, both Republican and Democrat, to let them know we will be with you every step of the way as you recover and rebuild.
She spoke at a rally in Arizona where early voting is just beginning.
Hello, Pittsburgh! Are you fired up?
As former President Obama began a battleground blitz for Harris in Pennsylvania, calling out misinformation about the federal storm response elevated by former President Trump and allies. The candidates fighting to show they are the right leader in a moment of crisis as Election Day closes in. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Nearly a month into the Boeing strike, the workers and the airline are still continuing to fight. Experts say every day they are on strike, the company loses millions. Cornelius Hawker has more on what this means for Boeing and its employees.
Economic experts say a costly strike is the last thing cash-strapped Boeing needs.
Right now, Boeing is losing somewhere between $1.3 to $1.5 billion a month in revenue.
Economics professor Dr. Borman Andrangi says losing that much money is reflected in the company's stock price, which has fallen nearly 7% over the last month.
Boeing's stock was sliding anyway, but the strike, I think, has caused another slide.
And on Tuesday, S&P Global Ratings announced it could downgrade Boeing's credit rating, citing the plane maker's growing cash needs as the strike continues.
When they come back online in a couple of months, let's say, they're going to need capital to get back and running. When they go to try to borrow, instead of 5%, they're going to have to borrow at 8 or 9%.
With a dire economic outlook, some striking workers think the company could be preparing for bankruptcy. A union member sent me that question. With a big role in the world market, Dr. Andrangi believes Boeing will do what it can to avoid bankruptcy.
I don't think Boeing is going to go bankrupt. I don't predict that at all. So workers don't have to be worried about that part of it.
Now, before we go, one last check on the weather. William, I had to go back into my apartment today to grab a jacket because I wasn't expecting for the temperature to drop. What's that going to look like for the rest of the week?
We've got some cool mornings ahead, and we're going to be in the upper 50s again each morning through the weekend, but a cold front around the middle of next week. It's going to bring another drop in temperatures where we could see those early morning temperatures in the upper 40s. Very fall-like.
Thanks for joining us for WUFT Midday. We're back here next week for another edition. We now join Sports Scene with Steve Russell live on WRUF Radio and right here on WRUF-TV Channel 6.